Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Super excited for this session. For those who don't know me, I'm Benny from the Playground team. And Playground, for those who might not be familiar, we are a childcare software app and website to help you with all of your operations from enrolling your families, billing, paperwork, staff payroll, communication with parents, everything in one system. We're really excited about the stuff we're building here. But that's all for me. Today we're joined with Jennifer Connor from the Childcare Success Company. She is the new CEO as of November of last year, so almost 1 year now. Really
Yeah,
excited to have her talk about, how to do this manager takeover, this 21-day revamp. Plenty of awesome things coming your way. So, Jennifer, take it away.
sure. Let me share my screen here. All right. We can see this, right? We're all good?
Yep.
All right. Hey, everyone. I am so glad to be here. So thanks, Benny, for inviting us to be able to share. Um, this is a presentation. I reworked it and made it all up to date, but I did it a few years ago at one of our summits, actually, and the feedback from it was so good because it applies to really any position you have in your school. So looking at just this 21-day manager makeover idea, and whether you're the owner, whether you're the director, whether you're a lead teacher, there's something in it for any piece of management or leadership that you have. And working through these is really kind of how you take your culture and your quality and improve it. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump in. What we're going to cover today is kind of what is active management, what are the three active management strategies, how do you use those strategies then to go and improve your culture and quality, and then sometimes you have to hit that reset button. I'll talk about that. It's one of my favorite buttons I've ever used. It's not a real button, but one of my favorite strategies I've ever used in my schools. And then I'm going to give you step by step for 21 days what you can actually do, how you can implement it in your school, in your business to change it and be a better manager. So I wanted to do just a little bit about me since it's the first time you're meeting me. Um, Really, I can't even begin to kind of go who I am without starting with my mom and my grandma, because in childcare industries I feel like two things are really important: resilience in business and having that heart and having that compassion and having that desire to change the world. Right, when I say change the world, is starting with this new generation of children that grow up. And both of these ladies taught me that I could really do anything I wanted in life. And I think it's important to have someone in your life that can tell you you can do anything, you can be anybody, you can be successful, you can do it all. They laughed and told me when I was growing up I was Wonder Woman. So I don't know how many of you out there were Wonder Woman when you were growing up. Like I actually had, I'm going to really, really date myself for a minute. It had like the underoos that I would wear and put the little Dixie cups on my wrist so I could be Wonder Woman. And they supported that. And it helped me grow into who I was and helped me kind of tackle everything, which going through childcare, you realize you really do need to know how to tackle everything. Then there was another lady in my life that really started my childcare journey. So I met Yvette Sexton. She owned the childcare center where my children went. And this is kind of how I fell into childcare, because I was raised to be Wonder Woman. I could do anything and I wanted to be the top of the world. I wanted to be in the corporate world. Actually went and did my degree in business and management and marketing with my majors, a minor in psychology, which surprisingly comes in very, very handy in childcare. But there was a point when I was pregnant with my last child that I was like, I think I'm just going to sit out. I'm going to sit out from work. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take some time off while I was pregnant. He was my fourth, so I've had four. He was my youngest. That's him actually in the middle of me and Yvette right there. And when I had went to her and said, I really need to take my children out of childcare, I'm going to take a break. And she's like, oh, no, 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 don't do that. And I was like, okay, she just wants me to keep them enrolled. And she's like, actually, I've been thinking about selling the business. Would you be interested? And I thought, absolutely not. I don't want to go into childcare. I don't have the patience. I'm not wired that way. I don't want to do it. And she's like, just think about it. Just think about it. And, every time I came back to her and I had some sort of objection of why I wasn't going to buy this school from her, she kind of just would sweeten the deal. Like, okay, I'm going to do lease to own. Okay, I'm going to stay on staff for a year and help you, like all these different things. So finally I was like, all right, I'm buying a childcare center. I'm doing this. My husband was like, you're still in the corporate world. We're going to incorporate your business. I'm like, okay, you're just making me feel better. But she really taught me what it was like and what it meant to have a childcare center. And when I got in there and realized the impact that it makes on the children and at the ages they are and just their social emotional development, and that really became my cause, was I wanted to make a difference in the children's lives, the staff's lives, the families' lives, and I wanted to be all in for that. And I was, and that worked for a while. I did this in 2004. I actually started working for her in every position. So I've worked everywhere in the school because I wanted to know, once I got into that director owner role, that I understood everything about what was going on. Little did I know that's not enough to learn everything that goes on, but I tried, and for the first 5 or 6 years, I found myself without a paycheck, stressed, working 60 hours a week, and just not happy. And I was very much struggling. And that's when I happened to meet this last lady that's had the most impact on my life, and this is Chris Murray. And I showed up at her 2012 Childcare Success Summit, and I was like, help, just fix my school because I don't want to do this, and I'm just exhausted. And sitting there and learning from her all the things that I could do to change my school, I became much more excited, and I wanted to go back and I wanted to do all the things. So I did. And then a year later, I bought a second location. And then, oh my gosh, then I started building my leadership team and I started putting in practice several of these things that I'm talking about today. And just building my leadership team to the fact that I wasn't even working in my school. But when I first joined the Success Academy, we were very, very small. Since then, we have definitely grown. So a little bit about Childcare Success Company and the Academy. We're the largest ECE business coaching program in the world. We have nearly 1,000 members that are in the program. And really, all it is lining up our mission, which is empowering childcare owners to succeed and live their best lives. And when I came across that, I'm like, well, that's exactly what I believed for my schools, right? I believed that I wanted to empower the families and the staff to succeed and live their best lives. I wanted to empower the children from when they grew up. So I felt very aligned from like day one with what the Academy and what the Childcare Success Company does. And I'm super excited. Like Benny said, I've been in the CEO role since November of last year, but I have been a member since 2012, and I actually joined the team coaching in 2017, just being able to kind of play a bigger game. And it's important for me to be able to come on calls like this. Again, thank you, Benny, and be able to share, because it's not just about holding on to the knowledge or just kind of gatekeeping anything. It's really about playing that bigger game and empowering all childcare owners and leaders to just be a better version of themselves and to show up better. But most of all, what it enables me to do is spend time and be a better mom, be a better wife to my family. So I just wanted to put these in here for fun. This is my whole family with my 4 children, and then a picture of me and my girls with my mom. And that's really, at the end of the day, I think why we do a lot of the things we do is because we want to improve ourselves. We want to be better. So hopefully today, when we go through this, you'll have a little bit different insight on how you can show up and be your best self and carry that over to what's most important to you so you can show up in the best way. So let's get into it. All right. Let's start with our employees, right? This is what we're going to talk about. What are employees? And I don't know if any of you have ever felt like this is what you walk into on Monday morning when you walk into your school, and these are the faces of your staff. But I've heard it happens. It happened to me many times over the years. So if you ever feel like this when you come in Monday, you're not alone. And what we want to do today is just really dig into this and kind of talk about what makes those sweet, nice employees that want to impress you in that interview, what kind of turns those employees into this on that Monday morning right after you've hired them. So I don't know, y'all can put in the chat if you've ever felt that way, because you're not alone. It happens. So let's start with her, right? This is that, who, me? No one ever told me I needed to do that. No one ever trained me. I've never heard that before. You're making it up. That other teacher in the classroom's not doing it, or my schedule says I get off at 2 o'clock. Like, I'm leaving. I'm defensive. I have an attitude. I'm just here to get my paycheck and then I'm going home. I am not here to make your life any easier. So if you heard that and immediately in your head, you can identify at least one person on your team that this girl sounds like, then this presentation is 100% for you. And that's how you know something's going on behind the scenes in your management strategy that is causing some rifts in your culture, which then lead to like rifts in the quality that you're having. But kind of the $1,000,000 question we're going to answer today is that problem with the employees, with this girl that comes in with this attitude, or is there an underlying cause and it's actually the manager? You know, is there something that the manager can be doing to change that person's attitude? So let's go off, get rid of that girl. Let's get a different girl. This is the one you want, right? This is the one that says, yes, ma'am, whatever you want, ma'am, I can do that for you. Can I stay late to organize the cubbies? I can cover that shift. Sure, I can do it. She smiles. She's encouraging. When you walk in her classroom, all the circle time is perfect. She has her curriculum done. She's talking to the parents. She is doing everything right. Like, she is our A player. She is our poster child employee. And what happens, we bend over backwards to please her, right? Because this is who we want. We don't want to lose her. We love her. Sometimes we're like, we just could care less about the other girl. She's just there. She doesn't really do her job anyway. This is the one we want. So again, if you're feeling that way and you can identify already somebody in your head, you're like, yep, I have one of those. They come in and they have everything done. So if you're sitting here going, okay, I have one of the other ones that doesn't do anything, and then I have this one that's like my A player, we're back to that question. Is the underlying issue the employees that we're getting into our schools, or is the underlying issue the management style or the actual manager? So it's been said, right? People do not leave people leave managers, not companies. Sorry. So to answer the question, is it the employee or is it the manager? If we look at just that statement, people leave managers, people leave companies, not managers. And I'm not talking about like kind of the few bad apples we get. Like every so often we get an employee that's just really not the right fit. And I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the majority of the employees. The manager, owner, director, lead teacher, whoever's in that role, so just fill in the blank with the role that you have, that person really has the control to either make great employees or not so great employees. So you have that control to either have that first girl that's like, nope, not doing that, I don't care, or to have that second girl that's like, yes, whatever you need, I'm here for you 100%. So that is in your control. What we're going to go through is, how do you have that show up consistently? How do you consistently get the girl, the person that you want to have? So let's start with active management. So let's just jump into it. Active management strategy number 1. So I don't know how many of you have heard this phrase, manage by walking around. And this is something that I know when I was sitting in that director role, sometimes it was very hard for me to do, to manage by walking around, because you get into a manager role, you get into a director role, and then bam, all of a sudden all the paperwork, all the to-dos, all the licensing, all the food program, all the everything falls on your desk, the scheduling for you to do. And I know it's a lot of stuff, but here's my question for you. If you find that you are spending more than 50% of your day in that office doing those tasks, then your management style is out of balance. Okay, so what is really great to help determine this, because if I asked you like what percent of the time do you spend in your office, you some of you may easily be able to answer that. The others of you may be like, I don't really know. Like I feel like I do both. So what I would have my directors do, and this is a good exercise, is just Monday morning, you put a piece of paper on your desk. And every time you walk out of your office and come back in, right? I just came back in my office. I'm writing down, like, what did I come back in my office for? What am I working on? How much time did it take me? So how long did I actually sit here at my desk in front of my computer or with all this paperwork and checking in, check out attendance sheets? Like how much time did I spend doing that? So at the end of the week, what you're going to have is really an analysis of the task you do. So it's kind of interesting on a flip side to really look at what all goes into your job. So at the end of that week, you'll be able to take that paper and say, okay, I know for certain I spent X amount of time. If I'm scheduled for 40, okay, let's get real. Most of you work more than 40 hours a week, but let's say 40. I work 40 hours a week and I spent 30 of those hours in the office. I spent 10 of those hours outside the office. Then you can say, okay, 75% of my time was in the office. I need to reevaluate that because now I'm spending too much time in the office. So you can do this exercise so you know which one it is. And then it also is going to help you identify like what things do you need to take off your plate. So once you have that analysis done, if you're spending time doing things that are, I kind of want to say below your pay grade, and I don't mean that in any kind of negative way, but as the director, as the owner, as a leader, there are tasks that are specifically things that only you can do. So if you find tasks down here on this list that you're just spending busy time doing because you're in the office that you can delegate to someone else, you're going to start looking for those to pull off because you got to pick up the time, right? I just did my analysis. I'm spending 75% of my time in my office. I'm spending 25% of the time walking around or being outside my office. So which 25% of my things do I need to delegate and get off my plate? And that really, on a whole different training, is the start of how to build your leadership team by starting to take those things and pull them off and delegate them to other people. So now, on the flip side, you looked at how much time you spent in the office. So you would assume, well, that meant I spent 25% in my classrooms, but maybe you didn't, because maybe part of that 25% was you had to go to the grocery store, you had to unclog the Hot Wheels out of the toilet, you had to go into the kitchen to help plate all the meals, or you had to go do bathroom breaks. That's really not in the office. So when you're doing your analysis of what are you doing in the office, I also want you to do for the same week, what are you doing in the classroom? How much time are you spending in that classroom doing continuing education, training, mentorship? So what we're looking for is that 50%. We're looking for this balance of 50% office, 50% classroom, modeling, training, mentoring, assessing, ensuring the quality of your program, ensuring the quality of your teachers. Because, and actually the first time someone told me this, it was kind of an aha moment. Because if you're doing all this office work, are you really a manager or are you an office administrator? And when that question was brought to me the very first time, I'm like, am I the office administrator? Like, is that what I'm doing? And I had to be honest with myself by doing this assessment. I'm like, man, I really am. I'm the office administrator. I'm in there managing and shoveling paperwork all day. I am not out there managing my people and managing my program. So make sure that you do that side of the assessment as well, so you can see really where you're at. So what I'm just trying to do right now is to get kind of the back end work. Like in order to change something, you have to really understand what you're doing to begin with. So really understanding your office work, really understanding how often you're in your classrooms to begin with, and then coming to it and going, okay, let's put it together. Because here's the honest fact: you cannot manage your program, and you cannot manage your classroom, and you cannot manage your teachers from your office. And you're probably like me. I have had many, many employees, because I was the one in my office, thought I was doing that before I realized I'm the office admin. And they're like, oh, your job must be easy. You just sit in your office all day. You don't do anything. It's not easy. They're both very difficult. But if you're really trying to manage your people, manage your program, manage your team, you have to get out. And that's why strategy number one, and just to make it short, manage by walking around. Get out of the classroom and make your time analysis so you know what you can get rid of, right? Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you like you just have to do it all. Like you still have to do all the paperwork, but then you still have to go around the classroom. Nobody has that much time, energy. And if you are doing that, and if you are stuck in that because you don't have anybody else, once you start going through these steps, you'll start identifying people. So if the prospect of taking things off your plate and trying to find someone else that's going to do that paperwork kind of gave you an anxiety moment, because who else is going to do it if not you? Just keep going through the process with me. Just hang in with me, because once you get there and you start putting it, you'll start identifying people. Because when you make space for what's really important, you'll find that other people step up to do the other things. You'll start identifying them. You'll start noticing them. I mean, just from being in the classrooms, you'll start noticing people that can do some of these things. Maybe they have downtime, or maybe they have an opportunity that you never knew existed, or they have a passion, or they have a talent that you didn't know. So you can be like, oh, that's a great person that I can ask to take this task on. And that's kind of a whole nother presentation when you get into delegation, is realizing that it's not, delegation is not top down. You don't just come in as the owner and then delegate to the director, and the director delegate to the assistant director, and then they so forth and so on. Delegation is really finding the right people that match those tasks, whether they're an assistant teacher, whether they're your floater, whether they're your, foster grandparents that come in to read stories. So it's taking everything that you have available and really looking at it to see. So this is how you're making that time. But getting out of your comfort zone, because some of you, I know, because it was for me, some of you I know in that office is your comfort zone. For me, I kind of told myself my comfort zone was that, because I didn't come from a childcare background. I'm like, the fact of having 10 2-year-olds running around me like scares the living mess out of me. So I had to really, really conquer that, and had to kind of address what I was feeling inside. Like, is this real? Like, is what I'm feeling real, or am I just comfortable and not wanting to put that work in to get inside my classrooms? And I didn't want all the feedback coming to me of, this teacher did this child did this parent's unhappy, because that's when you're in your office, that's what you get. But not having that flip side of being able to be in the classrooms to see it for yourself, I had no proof. That's not the right word, but I didn't have anything to fall back on to know for myself if those things were happening. So it kind of just, it didn't enable me at all to be the best manager. So this is why, number one, get out of your office, manage by walking around. That's strategy number one. So going into the second active management strategy, and you've probably already heard a lot of times, like, one-on-ones are important. They really are. But you think back to all that time you spend in your office, sometimes these fall off, either because we're not comfortable with them, we don't know what we're going to say, we don't have a format. And so when they fall off, it's back to the manager, right? It's the manager's fault, or just inexperience in order to make those happen. So if I asked you to really think about, when was the last time you sat down and really reviewed every one of your staff's strengths, their weaknesses? When did you really sit down and give them a goal? Like, this is a goal that I want you to hit by our next one-on-one. And here is the tools that I'm going to give you so you can reach that goal. When was the last time you really stepped in and ensured that they were supported and trained to do their job up to the level of the quality that you want them to do their job? So if you don't have answers to that and you're like, oh, it's hit or miss, or maybe never, then it's really because you're either not confident or you're not trained. So we're going to get you out of your comfort zone. I'm going to give you some talking points and the 21-day refresh on how to get that done to really make these impactful. So you don't come into these and feel like, I'm just wasting time. I'm just chit-chatting. Like, what did your daughter do in dance class yesterday? What did your son do at soccer practice? Like, they're really meant to be more than that, is to keep them accountable for what you expect. So making sure that you're doing that, because if you're not doing that, then what's the alternative? Did they have like some fantastic 3-day training and then they were just put into a classroom? And it's funny, I guess, now to think about that, but I think it's more funny because I realize how many times I did that. Like, oh, you're hired. Here's 3 days of training. Here's the toddler room. Go have fun. And I never followed these steps. And you don't realize it until it kind of catches up with you and you're like, man, something's off track. I have that first girl that's like, I don't care. And then you have to start kind of unpacking and digging through everything to realize, like, how did you even get there? So again, I'm pulling you through this. So if you are in that spot, you know how to get out. And then if you're not in that spot, great. But you're going to follow these so you don't ever get in that spot. So if you're not giving your staff feedback, if you're not having one-on-ones with them, if you're not giving them goals, that is going to be a definite way to run your culture. Because that girl, the one that was like super excited to be there, she wants to be praised. She wants to be given encouragement. She doesn't want to be taken for granted. Sometimes that's what we do, right? Like, oh, this is the great one, so she doesn't really need much direction. This is the one that's not great, so they need a lot of direction. And so what happens to this one? They start to fade, right? Like, as you see it in the same thing when the children in the classroom, right? Like the ones that are always getting corrective action or getting the teacher's time because they need to be redirected, the ones that don't need that because their behavior is very good in the classrooms, you'll see their behavior drop. So everybody that works in childcare understands that dynamic, right? When you give all the attention to the one with the undesirable behavior and none of the attention to the one with the good behavior, this behavior drops. Y'all, it's the same thing with our staff. And that's just human nature. Like, that doesn't change. And telling ourselves like they're grown-ups and they're adults, so they shouldn't need this, that just doesn't work. Because when staff are not given their feedback, training, direction, encouragement, attention, praise, correction, they check out. And then all of a sudden, this staff that was so great, all of a sudden is way down here with the rest of the staff. And now nobody's doing their job. Now our culture and our quality really, really is in a bind. So if you don't have that system that has your consistent feedback with each team member, I want you just to make a commitment. Even if you don't understand how or why, and it doesn't feel comfortable, I just want you to make that commitment like, okay, I'm going to start following active management strategy number 2, and I'm going to do regular one-on-ones with my team. And again, if you're not comfortable with that, start practicing. It does get better. It's not going to be perfect the first time, but start practicing. And we're going to jump over to the last one, number 3. Once you have put these other 2 into place, what comes naturally next is hold staff accountable for their actions. So again, here's kind of a thought question for you. How many times do you let an employee get away with something just because you're short-staffed and you can't lose team members. Like, I know they shouldn't be doing that, but if I send them home or if I terminate them, who's going to go in that classroom? Does that mean it has to be me? Like, what's going to happen? So, what I call that, and I called this for a while, it's like, this is your staff holding you hostage. And unfortunately, I've been in there more times than I'd like to admit, but we all, I think, fall into that category at some points, sometimes, where we really do feel like our staff are holding us hostage. And I want to just blow that out the water today. Like, you have got to get that out of your mindset immediately, because again, we're back to these C and D players. Your A and B players over here are going to come down, and now you're going to all have C and D players. So we have to try harder, be better, do more, treat everyone the same, and actually hold them accountable, because we don't want people just showing up just to get that paycheck, just to hold space in a classroom, just because you don't know what else you're going to do if they're not there. So we're going to get rid of that mindset, and we're going to start holding them accountable. When you start thinking about holding them accountable, it's really important to remember that you have to treat them all very fairly. Be fair, be consistent. So if you have those staff that are holding you hostage and you're holding them to no standards, right? Because you've kind of already given up on them, but yet these A and B players, you're holding them to a much higher standard because you want to keep them. So you maybe are investing time in training or resources, or maybe you're giving them the praise and encouragement. You're not being very fair and consistent. So make sure that whatever you do, you put into systems into place, hold them accountable. You're doing things the same across the board as far as praise, as far as accountability, regardless if they're your C and D players or if they're your A and B players on the other side. And then the other thing to hold them accountable, and this is something to think about, because when you think about accountability, sometimes the question is, like, do they even know? Like, when you say, I'm going to hold you accountable, like, do your employees even know what their job description is, what they're supposed to be doing, what they're supposed to be held accountable for? So hopefully everyone has job descriptions. I think it's pretty much a licensing requirement everywhere. So everybody has one, but are we using them to the best of, are we using them to the best of what they could be used for? At one point, and I don't remember when this was, I was like, okay, I don't think job description is the right word anymore. I'm going to start calling this a job requirement, because these are the things, like, I honestly require you to do in order to have a job. So when I flip that language, and maybe it was just in my head, maybe it just helped me see things different, that I wasn't just describing some abstract job that I wanted them to do. I was actually listing out what I required of them. I require you to do these things in order for you to have a job. And when you stop doing them, you stop having a job. So if you haven't looked at your job descriptions in a while, if they're out of date, you might want to start looking at them again and really, really take the time to say, are they accurate? Is what I have on this sheet of paper really what I expect them to do when they show up in that classroom or into whatever position they are? Because when you have that list of job requirements, then you can come and go, okay, I'm having that one-on-one. I'm matching the job requirements. You're either doing it or you're not. And now I can hold you accountable. So everything starts to piece together, but you have to have that underlying structure. So really all these things need to be working together, but having that job description is a good start. And then lastly, and this is just kind of a catchphrase. So anytime I say, do your employees know what you expect out of them? Yes, rewrite the job descriptions, but you can borrow this. This is a catchphrase, and I don't even remember. It came actually from one of our members at one time, and I remember who it was. It's been so long, but it's kind of just stuck with us, right? And they may have gotten it from somewhere else, but this phrase has stuck true to me and true to a lot of our academy members or clients or people that we talk to so many times, and it's you have to inspect what you expect. So if we're talking about active management, we're talking about getting out of your office. We're talking about setting up one-on-ones where you can talk to them. We're talking about having a really clear job description so they understand. None of that works. We're right back to square one. If you never get out of your office, there's no way you can actually inspect what your expectations are. So we've kind of gone just in a circle here with the 3 active management strategies, but hopefully that's kind of hitting for you or making sense that this is an active role. And actually, I just did a presentation for a group of our Empire members, and it was based off of a book, The Motive by Patrick Lee. I never say his last name right, so I'm not even going to try. But it was actually taking the definition of CEO, which is Chief Executive Officer, and saying that's not right. It's actually Chief Executing Officer. So it kind of plays into this, like being a CEO, being an owner, being a director is not a passive role. It's not one that you sit around and because you have the qualifications, then this title kind of comes down to you. It is a very active role where you have to actually kind of go get your hands all in it, get into those classrooms, see for yourself, spend time mingling and inspecting what your actual expectations are. So here's the roadblock. We're back to our staff holding us hostage. So I just want to stop here and give you this secret, not so secret tip is that you always, with zero exceptions, need to have an always hiring policy. Okay, you need to always have your ads out. You need to always interview staff that look like they're the right fit. You need to, anytime someone is actually qualified and they're the right one and they wow you, even if you don't need staff, hire them, because you know without a shadow of a doubt, there's something for them to do. Sometimes our brain works a little odd when we're owners and we're focusing on that huge payroll number that none of us really want to look at because it's hitting 50, 55, 60, 65% of our revenue and it's scary. But when you're trapped in that mindset, that's what keeps you held hostage because you've got these people that you can't do anything with. You can't enforce anything. You can't hold them accountable because you don't have a backup. So always hire because you know you're going to have people that call in, people that are no-show, people hopefully not that don't come back from their lunch break, but people that want to take vacations. You're going to have projects going on or parties going on where you need people kind of floating around, back to that paperwork that maybe you're spending too much time doing. There's paperwork they can do so you can get into the classroom. Or let's say all the stars align and they really are an extra person. You can go back to that to-do list, right? Like I have this to-do list of things that I would love to accomplish, things that I would love to do. Start having them do that. But chances are they're not going to be extra for long. But here's the magic, right? When you have that extra person, and now that girl, that whatever face she was making on that first slide, you have her, and she is not following her job expectations. She's a D player. You have the ability and the freedom to now go in and say, you know what, this is not working. Here's what the expectations we lined out. Here's how we worked with you. Here's where you're not hitting those expectations. And so unfortunately, we're going to replace you because you're not held hostage. You've done this no hiring. You can put a new person in there. And now on the flip side, and this is letting someone go, but then also when you're trying to tell them that I need you to live up to these expectations, this job requirement, I need you to do these things, you have consequences that you can carry out, right? You can put them on suspension. You can terminate them. You can kind of practice what you preach. Sometimes our staff, they're not dumb. They look at you and they're like, you can't get anybody to cover my classroom. And they know that. But when they see that extra person floating around, this magical psychological effect goes on, and they're like, oh, I am replaceable. And not just in the future, like I'm replaceable right this second. So I don't know if y'all have ever had that happen where you really wanted to do something with a teacher. I really told this teacher 25 times not to have her cell phone in the classroom, and I'm watching those cameras and she's on her phone. And what I really want to do is send her home, but I can't. But guess what? Now I can. So that's kind of your secret behind this, is to have that now always hiring policy. So it enables you to follow these steps. And sometimes, you know what, you get here and you just have to hit reset. Sometimes things have gone on. Sometimes this maybe feels like unsurmountable amount of work. You've kind of been going down this downhill path, letting your culture slide, letting your quality slide, letting C&D players kind of overwhelm you. You're not doing your one-on-ones, you're camped out in your office, and you're just like, I don't even know. Like, Jen, you could give me my 21-day plan, but I don't even know how that would come across. My favorite button, which, as I told you, is the reset button. Now, no, it's not really a button, although my team did buy me one. If you remember, this is so funny, way back when that commercial for, I think it was like an office supply, I don't even know who it was a commercial for, and they had like that easy button on their desk that they would press and things magically happen. They got me one of those buttons because I would say it so much, like, we need to reset. But it became just, it's just a word, right? But what it meant when I said we need to reset was meaning I'm taking responsibility of where things went wrong. I'm taking responsibility of us being off track. This was me. I'm the one that was not following best practices. And so what I want to tell you is that we're going to reset, and from here forward, this is what we're going to start doing. I found that worked a lot better than just coming in one day and being like, oh, I'm not in my office. All of a sudden now I'm just in your classroom watching you. Because they're like, why are you in my classroom watching me? What did I do wrong? What do you want to know? What's happening? So having those words, right? I'm doing reset, so they know why I'm there. So that was a pretty powerful word. So let's cover, and you can do screenshots of this however you want, but this is what I really want you to know. I'm going to do you week 1, 2, and 3. So if you want to screenshot that, this is what you do. You have your reset. All right, I'm going to do a reset. You're going to have a staff meeting, and you're going to say, you know what? I've been slacking. Yes, me. This is all on me. And I realize that, but starting now, things are going to be different. You are all going, and I'm going to make sure that you all know what you're supposed to do, that you know what you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to be doing it, and I'm going to hold you accountable to do it. And what we're going to do, because we're doing this, we're going to create a great culture, an awesome quality program along the way. So you have that staff meeting, you tell them that. Then you use that time where you got out of your office, spend time with them, retrain, teach them, mentor them, let them shadow you. If they're not doing circle time right, you do circle time and give them that example to follow. Then you spend time watching them. You give them feedback. You can't do these things if you don't make that investment to spend time. So it's really like, how important is it to you? How important is it to you to have great quality school? So if it's important, you've got to get in here and do that. You got to make sure they understand what you expect, spend time in those rooms. While you're in those rooms, and please, unless it's a safety issue or like a violation, please do not, in the middle of while they're trying to work with the kids, start telling them everything they're doing wrong. Don't do that. Take notes. Here's what I see that's working. Here's what I see that's not working, because you're going to use that on week 2 when you have your one-on-ones. But start taking notes. This is where I see the transitions went well. This transition didn't go well. This was not happening right when we went to the playground. So you have all your notes. Then you're going to sit and go, okay, what really from all my notes needs to be improved? So I want you to think about that. This is your brain power. This is your unique brilliance. This is back to, what can you do that nobody else can do? Nobody else can do that. Your teachers, your assistant teacher, your afternoon part-time person is not going to be walking around saying, how can I improve the quality and the culture of this school? That is your job. So spend time in there, start working, make notes, think about what needs to be improved. And really during this week, I want you to focus on just being present for your team, being supportive, be accessible, be fair, just be there. So this is what I want you to work on week 1. Then when you hit over to week 2, this is when you're going to take all that information and you're going to start bringing it over to your teachers. So schedule a time for every one of your teachers to have a one-on-one with you. Now, what you want to do is get on a cadence of monthly, weekly, bi-weekly, every 2 months, whatever your cadence is of when you're going to continue to meet with them. But you don't want to skip it. That's the worst thing you can do, because if you skip my one-on-one, you just told me I'm not really important. Even if I'm a grade A employee, right? A+ rock star, I want this time with you because I still want to be encouraged. If you forget about me and you don't have it because you think there's nothing you need to talk to me about, I'm going to all of a sudden be very discouraged and I'm not bought in anymore. So have that initial one-on-one, do all of that, but then schedule them. They don't all have to be within the same week when you reschedule them, but get them on your calendar, get them repetitive. And if staffing's really a struggle, if you had that always hiring plan, you have an extra staff that can go take over that classroom while that teacher comes in for their one-on-one. You can have them come in 15 minutes early for their shifts, stay late 15 minutes, have a floater go to one of the rooms, to give them that time, but it's important to do it. Make sure you're prepared. So don't come in and be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, especially if this is out of your comfort zone, right? Because that may be why you're not doing them. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I don't know what I'm supposed to track. I don't know, and I don't like it. And this is not really my lane. Like, I don't love this. The way you're going to be better at it is to be prepared. You take everything you learn from that first week, being in the rooms, you have that kind of laid out. Here's the things I saw that you did great. Here's your strengths. Here's things I saw that are weaknesses that we can come up with a plan to improve. Here's opportunities maybe for some professional development based on something I saw. So what are the opportunities? And then here's some threats. Like if this continues happening, then here's the accountability and the consequences. So have those, we call it a SWOT analysis. You can end up with whatever format you want for your one-on-ones eventually. I'm giving you this very basic one if you're starting from scratch and don't know what you should be covering during a one-on-one. So this is something easy, something anybody can do by being able to spend time in the room. Strength, weakness, opportunity, threats. Then be ready with a goal to give them. Don't wait and be like, oh, well, what should I give them? What should we focus on? What should you should be doing? No, have something already, something simple that you want them to work on that they should be able to do by next month. So we call this a SMART goal, because if you start making like blue sky goals, it's not going to happen and nobody's going to feel good about that. The employee's not, because they didn't meet it and you're not. So make them SMART, specific, measurable. You got to be able to know what it is. You got to be able to measure it. Did they do it? Attainable, something they can do. Relevant, something that relates back to their SWOT. And timely, it's got to be able to happen within 30 days. Then ask them, hey, what support do you need from me to make this happen? What questions do you have? What feedback do you have? So if you didn't grab a screenshot of that one, grab one. But this is really what you're doing. It's giving you a very simple outline of how to accomplish a one-on-one. But make this your whole week 2. So this is part of your 21 days, right? This is during week 2. We're going to really dive in with each one of our employees. And remember, we hit reset. So this is not a surprise. It's not like you just drop this on them. We hit reset. We told them we're resetting and then we're doing this. So everybody's expecting it. And if they're expecting it and you don't do it, then we're back to people leave managers, not companies, because they lose faith and trust in you. Then when we go from there, so now we're down to week 3. So now that we kind of got all the pieces moving, we've had their one-on-ones, we've had their analysis. When I say scorecards, really all this means is what, going back to that measurable, like what are you wanting to look at every month on the continuing one-on-one? Like what are the benchmarks of what you want to have happen? Is it classroom retention? So, or is it, if it's a director, is it the enrollments, or is it the amount of times the phone rang and nobody answered it? Like, is it how many times we were on time at school to pick the kids up after school? I don't know. Nobody can tell you what your scorecard numbers are. Scorecard numbers are very specific to you, and they are things that usually are very important to you and your success, or there's things that you know are not happening, that they're pain points that you want to improve. And nobody can tell you what those are. So you have to really identify, like, what moves the needle for me, what moves the mark, what brings us forward. So have those scorecards, and then tell your people on the one-on-ones, like, let them know, make sure they understand, like, this is your number. You're going to be held accountable for this, whatever's on it. And it should be the same for every teacher. So it shouldn't be teacher one, your scorecard is classroom retention because your kids keep dropping, and teacher two, yours is, oh, you know what, you're doing great. I just would like to see an extra circle time per day. And like, no, needs to be across the board, because that's important, consistent and fair scorecards. Now, different positions can have different scorecards, but you want, if they're all teachers, to have all the same scorecard. Then you have to enforce things, right? None of this makes any different if you do not enforce them. If you put all this in place and you just let them run free and they're failing to live up to the standards, but you're just like, oh, I'm back to being held hostage, so I'm going to let them do it. This is why you have that hiring policy. Then it's really from there, repeat, right? There's not a whole lot more to it. Like week 1, week 2, week 3. It's not an end of the road. Like I say, 21 days. It's 21 days to put this into place. But you just repeat this. You still are spending time in the classroom. You're still doing one-on-one, still doing scorecards, still holding them accountable. When I had got to this point one time in my childcare, and I'll share this with you, because when I say you can get held hostage by your staff, I think the most relatable time, and yeah, I've been held hostage by plenty of staff, unfortunately, was not realizing I was actually held hostage by my executive director. So I was actually creating this slide deck for a summit one time. And by putting these things in place, and here, I've been a coach for years. Like I knew this content, I knew these things, I'm putting this in place. And I realized, I'm like, I have a problem in my school. I have an executive director that's not doing any of these things. I've created scorecards for her and she's not hitting the mark. I put things in place and she's not doing it. And you know whose fault that is? That's not her fault. That was my fault. That was my fault for not inspecting what I expect. So 1 week before summit, I had to let her go. I let her go 1 week before summit when I knew I was going to be out of office for over a week, working at summit, doing this presentation similar to it for them. And I just fell kind of victim to everything else I was just talking about. So if you're feeling kind of like, maybe I'm talking to you, like maybe this has been about you, or maybe, some of these things that you're allowing to happen, look, it happens to all of us, right? I let her go. But because I had an always hiring policy, because I was constantly developing my leadership team, I had people I could immediately pull up into those roles. So it just really stresses the importance of that. But it happens to everyone. So what I wanted to leave you with was this quiz. And I'm not necessarily going to dig through it. I want you to take a screenshot and I want you to keep this quiz, because once you start going through this, and this is what I didn't do, right? Like I found myself even though I hit reset, even though I did all these things, I was still going, wait, somewhere along the line, like I checked out and stopped inspecting what I expect. But if you have this quiz that you kind of ground yourself with and you look at fairly often, this is going to kind of keep you in line. So do this, look at it every so often and really be honest with yourself. And you can do it now, like do it today, do it this afternoon, like really look and see where you're at and how you feel about yourself. And it'll help you identify some of the spots where you can take advantage of putting these things in place. And just remember, it takes 21 days, right? It takes 21 days to create a habit. So that's why I did this in a 21-day cycle. But it really takes 90 days to create that lifestyle. So just because you do it the first 21 days, it's not going to change your life. It's not going to change everything. It's that repeat piece of it. So once you start doing this and you hit about that 3-month mark, it's going to start feeling a lot more natural. It's going to start feeling kind of just like what you do. This is how I operate. This is how I manage. So start putting those things in place. And that's really it. We covered active management strategies, talked about improving your culture and quality, hitting that beautiful reset button, and then 21 days, which is week 1, 2, and 3, that if you put that in place, you're going to see, I mean, hand over fist changes in the quality of your school like forever. What I also wanted to do, if you're on here and you do not have tickets to the Child Care Success Summit, which is kind of where my journey started in 2012. I didn't know anything. I was failing with my business. I was like, I just want to quit. I want to walk out the door. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. And it got me all back on fire with all the things I needed to eventually come to where I'm at now. So if you haven't got your tickets, I do invite you to attend. It's October at Chicago. I'm getting tongue tied now. Like in Chicago in October, the Child Care Success Summit. Pretty much everybody that goes is coming back with immediate results, putting things in place. The summit is not just about only content. It's also about the experience. It's about learning something new. It's about connecting to speakers, connecting to coaches, connecting to the other attendees, and being able to pull all that kind of moral support system back into your school and just get re-energized, knowing that you're not alone in this, that you have something to fall back on. And I just put a couple of our client testimonials in there. But what I want to offer you today, if you haven't got your ticket, I'm going to give you like the deal of the lifetime today. I'm not even sure if we've had these deals like at all the whole time we've been selling tickets. But your tickets is a 3-day program. So it's a Wednesday night registration, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We have 50 sponsor booths. Playground's one of them, so they'll be there with us. And dinner, reception, lunch, breakfast. We have a breakfast session that's going to be provided. We do have Layla Ali this year. We also have Ben Nempton, and we also have Latrice Galloway, which is the child care chick that will be talking, along with Chris Murray, myself, our coaches. We'll have breakouts. So you have like concentrated content, tote bag with swag. Of course, we're going to hit you up with swag. I saw Benny and me both are like still sporting our water bottles with our swag from last year over here. And then really just lifelong friendships, connections. So us all with your ticket. So here's like the deal of the lifetime. You can scan this code. I don't know if while I'm sharing my screen, I can actually, it says I'll put this in the chat, but I don't think I actually can while I'm sharing my screen. So we have about 10 spots left. Summit is almost sold out, but I wanted to offer you $400 off of your Summit ticket. So, but you have to go to this special code, or you can scan the QR code, Child Care Success Summit. I know it's a lot of words, childcaresuccessummit.com/playground. So go secure your ticket if you haven't got it, $400 off. And, you know, even if you can't make it, we always have some portion of a live stream. We're doing things a little bit different this year, making a better piece. It's almost like a whole half day on our Saturday. That's our live stream. So if you can't make it in person in October, that's fine. What I would love to do is still see you on the live stream. So when you go to that link, just kind of keep scrolling. There's where you can register for that free portion. Oh, I said Saturday, it's Friday. I'm so used to our meetings being just Friday, Saturday, like the whole extra day throws me off. On Friday, there's the live portion. It's still being hammered out because it's brand, like what I said, we're doing something that we haven't done before, but get on there and at least pre-register. And then when all the details are out, we will send them over to you. But I'd love to see you all over there. If you go, tap me on the shoulder, say hi, and be like, hey, I heard you talk on the playground webinar, just so I can meet you in person. But with that, I think that's the last slide, Benny. Yeah,
That
that's
was
it.
awesome. So much wonderful information. We will be at the conference at the Success Summit as well. So hopefully some folks will be joining there. I do have my water bottle from last year and I love it. Very exciting. And the content overall, if anyone has any questions, shoot it into the chat. I will say, you know, the management skills is what breaks or makes or breaks any business. And, you know, we've heard so many programs and so many providers who have had trouble just scaling beyond themselves. And you know, implementing these strategies is what allows you to, you know, build up a team that you're confident in that can establish processes and execute those processes. And especially in the early times, you know, being involved in that, doing those one-on-ones, like you said, are super important. But this will ultimately allow everyone to, you know, grow their businesses, gain a bit more independence, not be as hands-on. And like you said, when you see that superstar staff member, hire them because this industry deals with far too much turnover, and you know you're never going to know when you need your next superstar in, and you might have an open spot sooner than you think.
Yes.
Michelle Davis, why is it so expensive? The conference, I'm assuming you're asking, it's expensive. It is a very valuable conference. So you're going to be, I mean, it's in Chicago and it has a bunch of awesome sessions, a bunch of great speakers, and it's a great network. They also offer, I think, a discount if you're part of the academy, which is a different program that they offer in the Child Success Company.
Yeah, so it's right, it's $997 and then $400 off, correct? Yes.
So it'd
So
be 5,507.
597. Yeah,
597 is correct. 597.
yeah, it's a very long conference, so it's a lot of days, a lot of food, a lot of
And the
drinks,
energy is
a
awesome.
lot of energy.
You'll see people on stage dancing and music's going. It's a great conference. Definitely one of the best ones we've been to. And Michelle, while it is costly, we do think, at least I've seen, you know, the importance of investing in professional development for yourself and your staff. It ends up paying, you know, back for itself pretty quickly.
Yeah, but that's why, I mean, that's why we're putting the live stream portion. So it's not the entire conference, right? But for free, you can go to the live stream portion. You just have to register for that. And that'll be for part of the day on Friday. So you can get like a little taste of what it is. I have to say, like, there's something very special about being in the room. So the feel of it is not going to be the same on the live stream, but you do get what's going on stage. So you can get half a day of it just by registering on the live stream.
Awesome. Anyone have any questions? Michelle Davis, true. Okay, great. Anyone have any questions for Jennifer before we close the room? Can you make this a replay so I can have my director watch it? Yeah, of course. We are going to have this available on our Playground website. We'll be sending out the recording to everyone as well. And, you know, it'll be online for indefinitely for everyone to watch it as they wish. Thank you. Larissa says, thank you. Great information.
Thanks.
That was a really informative, jam-packed session.
It was jam-packed.
Yeah.
I don't know how to make it more simple. It's
Awesome. I got another one, that private message that said this was awesome. Thank you. So people definitely enjoyed it. And for those who are watching async, if you ever want to reach out, Jennifer Connor, she is the new CEO of Child Care Success Company, and I'm sure you can find her information or just reach out to them as a whole to get any insights on, you know, how to build a successful and scalable childcare business. So
yeah, they
Jennifer,
can always
thank
go
you
to
so much.
childcaresuccess.com and all of our information's there. How to contact all of us is there. So everything about us is on our website.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you everyone for joining. Until next time, we have another webinar coming up October 8th. So hopefully we'll see other folks there as well. But thank you again, Jennifer.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Hi.